This May, come to where Kansas begins in the West. It's the 2019 Big Kansas Road Trip, May 2nd through the 5th, sponsored by the Kansas Sampler Foundation. This year, come join fellow Kansans as they explore Cheyenne, Sherman, and Wallace counties along the Land and Sky Scenic Byway in western Kansas. You'll discover incredible natural beauty and fascinating history in these three diverse counties on the Big Kansas Road Trip. During the first week in May, the communities in Cheyenne, Sherman, and Wallace counties have scheduled many activities to help you get to know the rural culture of the area. Come along with us now for a sampler of some of the attractions you'll see along this year's Big Kansas Road Trip. In Cheyenne County, take a driving tour of the famed Arickaree Breaks north of St. Francis, comprised of rugged landscape and deep canyons. Other points of interest on your tour of Cheyenne County include the beautiful Cheyenne County Courthouse in St. Francis. Take a stroll in Sawhill Park and the historic bandshell. Visit the Cheyenne County Museum featuring local historical displays. And you don't dare miss one of the greatest motorcycle museums in the country, the St. Francis Motorcycle Museum, featuring hundreds of beautifully preserved or restored motorcycles, many over 100 years old. And in eastern Cheyenne County, visit the town of Bird City, where Charles Lindbergh once barnstormed, and where you'll find the Tri-State Antique Engine and Thresher Showgrounds. Next on the Big Kansas Road Trip, explore Sherman County. In Goodland, the county seat, history and great architecture abound. Tours of some of Goodland's historic homes will be available, including the beautiful 1906 Queen Anne Ennis Handy House, located near downtown, and the late 19th century Gulick House, where Goodland's early doctor A.C. Gulick practiced medicine for nearly 60 years. And you don't want to miss visiting the one-of-a-kind giant Van Gogh sunflower painting next to the Goodland Visitor Center. And nearby, learn about life on the prairie at the extensive High Plains Museum, home of a replica of America's first helicopter. And take time to travel northeast of Goodland to visit the Kidder Battle Site, where the 1867 Kidder Massacre took place. Oh, and be sure and visit Canaredo, the westernmost Kansas community, located just off I-70. The southern end of the Big Kansas Road Trip is beautiful Wallace County, teeming with history, and home to one of the highlights of the road trip, Mount Sunflower, the highest point in the state. Join the many Kansans who've made the trek to the state's unique summit, located north of the community of Weskin in western Wallace County. In eastern Wallace County, you'll find the town of Wallace, home to nearby Fort Wallace and the Fort Wallace Cemetery, and the wonderful Fort Wallace Museum. The museum features thousands of artifacts and great stories of the fort and the colorful life on the plains in the 1800s. Anchoring the center of Wallace County is the town of Sharon Springs, where you'll find the modern, eclectic Wallace County Courthouse, built in 1915. In Sharon Springs, you'll find many fine businesses, restaurants, and places to spend the night, including the Mount Sunflower Bed and Breakfast. While traveling through Wallace County's countryside, keep an eye out for deer, antelope, and even wild horses. One of the highlights of the Big Kansas Road Trip will be the Stuffin for Kansas events with Marcy Penner and Wendy Rowe from the Kansas Sampler Foundation, to be held in several of the road trip's communities. For a complete listing of all the events, times, locations, and maps, pick up a copy of this year's colorful Big Kansas Road Trip guidebook for Cheyenne, Sherman, and Wallace counties. And go to BigKansasRoadTrip.com. Come to where Kansas begins in the West, May 2nd through May 5th, the 2019 Big Kansas Road Trip, sponsored by the Kansas Sampler Foundation. This video production was made possible by the Cheyenne County Development Corporation, Sherman County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Wallace County Visitors Bureau, with assistance from the Dame G. Hansen Foundation. And these generous business sponsors: FNB Bank of Goodland and St. Francis, Farm Credit of Western Kansas, Northwest Kansas Technical College in Goodland, Eckland Insurance LLC in Goodland and Sharon Springs, Hennick Lumber and Supply in Sharon Springs, and Short & Son Trucking of Goodland and Sharon Springs.